Okay, this is the Dove Lady, and I just got back from going on a small vacation with my daughter Susan, and we went to visit my sister Maggie, who lives in Louisiana, and my sister Donna, who comes from Florida, who's going to be moving in with my sister Maggie in Louisiana. And we also went to Hot Springs, Arkansas to visit my sister Linda. So all three of us girls got together. And while we were in Hot Springs, I said to my brother-in-law, point up, because I had my camera where I could see the orb in it, you know. And while you're in the picture, you cannot see. He pointed exactly right, and I put words in there. It says, you can't see me. Oops, maybe you can. That's what I put on this. I'm going to send this picture to him. And then I had him hold his hands out. And he's the only one that's ever cooperated with me. I could get such beautiful pictures of people bouncing orbs around or having them on the top of their head or whatever, if they would just be patient and work with me on it. But he did a little bit, but we were walking the streets of Hot Springs, so there wasn't a whole lot of time for this. But I had him hold his hands out, and I put a orb right over his hand. Looks like it's bouncing. I said, it's a bouncing baby orb. Imagine that. And then I put one over my sister Donna's head. And I made it like a thought bubble. And she says, oh my, what are you doing up there? Not for real. Actually, for real. And this one says, I have a bright idea. Now this one, my sister Maggie, you can't see her. When you take these pictures with orbs in them, you have to get so close in on the focus that the person in the picture is often out of focus. This would have been a very colorful orb, but that's the only way it turned out. And there in Hot Springs, you can get this hot water comes right out of the ground. It's mineral water and it's hot. Tastes so good. We bottled up some and took it home with us. And this is where my sister Maggie lives. And she has a beautiful place. It's on the Caddo Lake, which is a huge lake that extends into two different states, Louisiana and Texas, I guess. But it's huge, and it's all cypress trees, bayou-looking lake, and you can actually get lost in it. People have been lost for as much as 3 days. But this is a mysterious house because it was built quite a few years ago, and the person building it wanted an upstairs, and they were a train enthusiast. Susan said there's mountains in the wall up there, but we couldn't go up there on account of the little ladder. The little stairways are too rickety to trust them to take you up there. And the ladder up the side of the house, well, we never got around to climbing up there, but I wanted to so bad because there's this mysterious house above the house. In the front, it has windows and everything, but it was never completed. Looks like it even was, they wanted to have a patio up there. But anyway, they really fixed up this house. The bottom half of it is fixed up real beautiful, and her yard is beautiful. She's got these great big cypress trees, and look at this swing. Look how long it is. We swung in that, and Maggie pushed us out real far. It was kind of scary. But nevertheless, I survived. But then beyond this, you see, is the lake. And I'll show you some of the pictures. As you walk further in the back of her yard, this used to be an old fishing camp, and they called it La La Land. And there's a couple of campers. Well, they're not campers. They live in trailers. A couple of people who live there still. And she does have a little cabin as well. But its glory days are gone, unless they bring them back. But there's so many camps, I don't know if they will. They just want it for their own fun and family fun. But she has to replace this pier, going to cost thousands of dollars. But see how the boards are, they're real sturdy, but they're slanted. And you walk out on it, and it's beautiful to walk out on. It's just a bit scary, though. I guess I'm scared of too many things. Anyway, I walked out there several times. Anyway, it's just that when you get right there, you have to walk on a slant, and the cypress knees are really beautiful. They have a law there in Louisiana that you can't cut the cypress knees. That's what we used to do in Arkansas. My mother loved to carve these, and we would cut them down for her and let her carve them into figures, mostly women. They look like women, most of them. And this was early in the morning, and the fog was still out there on the water. You can see it real well in this picture. And there's this plant called Sylvania. It's like it only grows on the top. It doesn't have very long roots. It looks like it would make a wonderful aquarium plant because it's real beautiful. But it multiplied so much in that lake, Caddo Lake, that it's kind of a nuisance now to fishermen. But in the winter, it dies down. Anyway, I took a lot of pictures of cypress trees and the lake in the early morning. Big, huge birds. I think she called them herons and all kinds of birds. And ducks and things fly all around on this lake. Some mornings she can walk out there, and if she's real still and doesn't move much, because they are real prone to fly if they sense anybody's around. But a whole lot of ducks were just everywhere. And see, it's just beautiful out there. And of course, I had to take orb pictures out there. And I had my glass that I get the shine off of, and I took a few pictures of orbs around this beautiful scenery. Orbs are wherever you go, because space is wherever you go. You can find them everywhere. They're all around us. That one turned out real pretty, I think. I like an orb that shows transparency. Some of them aren't too transparent. You can't really see through them. But outdoor orbs usually are pretty transparent because there's so much light outdoors. The orb pictures I take indoors, well, they're not so transparent like these because there's less light that comes from my LED light that I use in my room. Look at that one, isn't that pretty? Now, I told my sisters and showed them pictures of some of my orbs, but there was not a whole lot of interest, and there was not a desire to learn how to do it themselves. I always want people to want to take pictures like that because it's so unusual, and maybe they don't believe that it is what is in empty space, but they have to see that it's something. This is the end of the pier where you can sit down. She's got a few benches there, and she's going to have the person who redoes the pier make this much wider, and then she's going to put a hammock between these two trees, and she's going to have a better picnic table. But that's a plan that's in the works. They've been spending so much time and money on the house that the pier has had to wait. There's another orb picture I took out there, and another. But anyway, I thought they would be really interested in wanting to take pictures like this, or to even ask me, well, what do you think it is that you're taking pictures of? But no, there was just mild interest. Just, even a little curiosity would have made me feel like, well, they might start thinking about this. That, we're looking into another dimension when you see an orb. But my sisters are very fundamentalist religious people. And we didn't talk much about religion because we have learned from the past not to do that because we will argue and not have a good time. We want to have a good time. And so they didn't do much talking about it. And it was just as well that we didn't, because neither of us can ever convince the other. And it's kind of an ego trip to try to do so. And I've realized that at their age, we're all getting so much older now. Sometimes when we see each other, we wonder if we'll see each other again. Because one of my sisters is in her 80s, and one's almost 80, I guess. And then I'm in my 60s. And my youngest sister is in her 60s. So we wonder sometime, we don't see each other all that often, but we're going to try to get to see each other more. Just make time to do it. Now especially we'll love going out to see my sister Maggie and walking this pier, this rickety pier. Squirrels all over the place. It's beautiful out there. She says at night when you go out there on the pier, you can't see the houses or the lights from the houses or anything, and it's like you're in the woods all alone with this majestic trees all around you. And that's my sisters, Maggie and Donna. Donna on the right and Maggie on the left. But like I was saying about, trying to convince someone that they're wrong about what they believe, when they're comfortable in their belief and they're older, it's like it would, if they were to believe you, it would be such a shock to have to think that they had been wrong all of their life. It's almost inappropriate to force a belief on someone by making them look at your evidence, and I would never do that. But sometimes I think for some people, after they get older, they're so comfortable with what they believe, it's best to let them just stay in it and not to spend too much time, because our time with each other is valuable, and we don't want to spend it just arguing. Arguing and getting nowhere, I might add. But I will tell you one thing that's funny. This is so funny. Oh, look at this. This shows you how old this pier is. This sink was for, cutting your fish up and dressing your fish out. And look, it's been so long that the cypress grew over it. I got another picture of that. See, there it is. When they redo the pier, they're going to just leave off trying to put any board under this sink and because the trees are holding it up quite well. I don't think it's going anywhere. So that will look very unusual without the boards and just the trees holding up a sink. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, a funny thing. We were all sitting around the table at Maggie's house here and talking about how easy it is to say if someone yawns, then you have to yawn. And I told about a teacher I had that said, okay, I don't want anybody in the class to yawn. And that's all we wanted to do after she said we couldn't. It's kind of like, wow, why did you suggest that? Because now all I want to do is yawn and I have to turn my head to yawn so you don't see me. And then my brother-in-law said, yeah, he had a neighbor that told all the kids, you can play in my yard, but I don't want to ever catch you spitting in my yard. And then he would go inside and look at them playing, and some of them spit in the yard. Something they would have never thought to do, but because he said don't do it, they wanted to do it. And then I think he said something like, my brother-in-law did, said, yeah, I would be one of those who wouldn't do it unless someone put me up to it. Just dared me to do it, then I might would. And I said, you know what this sounds like? It sounds an awful lot like the Garden of Eden. You can eat of all these other fruits of these other trees, but don't eat of that one. Don't. Only I said, and they said, yeah, that is kind of similar, but I said, except that when that happened, the one who said don't eat was so upset that he cursed all their children and made them leave the garden. So it wasn't funny, but when we think about our little kids disobeying us and doing the exact thing we tell them not to do, we laugh, but we don't laugh at that story that a lot of people take for factual and not seeing the symbolic or allegory that the story of Adam and Eve is. So that's one thing we disagree on. They believe it happened just as the Bible says. And you cannot argue with someone who believes that a person can be made from a rib of a man, that God made Eve out of the rib of Adam. I mean, women aren't still made that way. I thought of a joke the other night when I was just thinking. I said, wow, you could have a sonogram doctor taking a sonogram of a woman's belly like they do to see the baby. And it shows a big old rib bone. And he says, "It's a girl." I thought that was funny. I should be a comedian. But anyway, we don't go there much on trying to discuss that, but they had brought that subject up of how funny it is when you tell someone not to do something, and did that, you just plant the idea that they want to do that by telling them that they can't. People always want to be in control of their own actions and not be told what to do. And I think that's good. Some people think that's bad, but I kind of like the freedom we have to be ourselves and not controlled by the thoughts or the commands of someone else. But like I say, we didn't discuss it much because, for one thing, we wanted to have a good time. And we did. And all these pictures of orbs I took while I was there. I'm going to go through. This was in the front yard of my sister Linda's house. She lives in a place that she doesn't have to do any yard work because her front yard is mostly rock and her backyard is mostly downhill and woods. And you can look out over a valley and see for miles just looking out of her back window, or picture window. I didn't get a picture of that, but anyway, it's very beautiful there. And in the morning, when there's fog there, it looks like you're looking out over a lake. And she has a very beautiful place, very serene. And I took all these orb pictures while I was at her house, these that you're seeing now. And now, beginning with this one, I'm back at home and taking these pictures right in my room. Because anywhere you are, if you have light, it doesn't matter if it's the sunlight. It can be, light is light. And light is something we need to understand because light is energy. And energy is what we're craving for. And we think we have to have energy by burning fossil fuels to get it. But there are other ways. Ways that we haven't even dreamed of yet. But I do believe that studying light is one of the things we need to do in order to uncover what it is. Because this form of energy, while it doesn't have mass, it has some kind of energetic potential, I'm sure. But what I'm thinking as I look at orb after orb after orb that I take a picture of, I'm thinking that this kind of energy is something you communicate with and you get in cooperation with, and you cannot command it or demand of it. You have to respect it and know that it is consciousness. Some people think that these pictures are just something the marble does or magnifies. Well, it is. The marble is creating a place where a lot of light concentrates in a little shiny spot. And that concentrated light is magnified by the marble so that the camera can pick up what is in the light. I have so many pictures of the light that shows that there's so many color combinations. Sometimes I just want to do something. I don't really want to look at this in a commercial way, but Spirit told me that I can because this gets it known. But I would love to have big t-shirts with huge orbs on the front of them. These really colorful ones. And also I would like to make cards. I'm going to look into maybe doing the card thing where you can have light cards. I can't say that word right. Anyway, I just go on taking pictures and wondering. But I don't mind that I don't know the answer. Now see, look, this light is the little LED light that's in my room. And you see out of it the teardrop-shaped orb emerging already. It has color in it. And then when it gets out a little further, it's not so much teardrop shape, but it's this shape. and it's color coordinated. It just, for all the world to me, looks like fabric. Threads of fabric of many different colors. And they just come right out. And see this one right here that's a little circle? When I look at light without the aid of a camera, but with my own eyes, and I'm using the glass to get a little image of light to pop up sort of from the glass, and then I kind of move it around so that I can look over to the terrain of the light as it expands all around that one point. And I can see this kind of little circle, kind of like in a net, and many of these centers like this, with this color of one here, and then concentric lines of color around it. And it just like a field of this. And it is extraordinary. And I think, you know, any explanation people give me, oh, this is the camera, I immediately I know it's not just the camera. The camera's picking it up, and I'm really happy over that. But I see it with the naked eye. Some of the things that are being picked up by this camera, I know are there, but they're in another dimension that somehow, I don't know how, I've been able to see into. And I wonder why I'm able to see it, but then I think, well, because maybe God gives you what you're curious about, and for many years now I've been reading books about light. I've been reading Walter Russell's book, The Secret of Light, and The Universal One, and then Norma Milanovich wrote this book called The Light Shall Set You Free. And I will put the playlist for those over into the description bar in case you want to listen to me read these different authors' stories about what they've learned about light. Walter Russell had an experience talking to God, and he's called the man who tapped into the secrets of the universe. And I wish more of the physicists of today would listen to what he had to say about light. He said, light doesn't travel. Light reproduces itself. I want to show you some light reproducing itself. Because when I'm using my camera, I just play with the light. I, look at it this way or that, moving the camera this way or that, and I can make it go back and forth like it's bouncing a ball. See, like this one here. Oh, let me shut the door. People in the house again, so I have to be a little less loud. See this one? See how it merges from there, and as it does, it just disappears and leaves a little trail. I don't know if you can see that, but that's a little luminous trail, and it goes into this one. But it'll go right back into the first one if I view it different. It's the observer that conditions this light. So we have an important part to play in what light is doing and what light will do if we work with it. In the future, we may find the answer to a lot of problems by understanding the light and working with the light. You know, the word worship in the Bible means to work with. So I wouldn't say I worship the sun or the light or anything, but I would say I work with it. Because I see it as a consciousness, as a being in its own rights. And there are things that live in this light, believe it or not. You don't have to believe it, but there are light creatures that live in light. They're in another dimension. And they're all around us. Now we can be scared to know what it is and call it demons or something that we don't want to dabble in, because that's what my sisters say. They don't want to dabble in such as that. It's like, no, what you're really saying is you don't want to think scientifically of anything or think outside of the box that you're in. It's a fear, that's all it is. Because light is our friend. Everything is light. We're made of light. And I think the Bible says God is light. Now see how this one turned real colorful out here, but see, here's the light source over here, and there is a little teardrop shaped one coming out. Now these red spots, or pink spots, whatever you want to call them, anytime I take a picture of the light, those are all around it, and it's called camera flare, lens flare, or something like that. But this is beyond lens flare, what I'm getting here. This is a traveling orb, traveling, reproducing itself to travel orb. And they can turn so many ways and show so many colors. I feel like an artist every time I take my camera out to take a picture of light. I think, oh, I feel like an artist going after beautiful pictures that I don't have to paint. Now see this orb in the middle? It traveled from that one, which is back again being more or less round, and it's traveling over into this one, which it joins up with. They're like, they can become one another. And then it can completely disappear too after this if I move my vision. See how it's doing there? And this is light entangled. This, I don't know why the physicists aren't looking at this sort of thing, because they're always talking about entanglement. And what is in empty space, they're always wondering. Just need them to look here, I show them. There's colorful things there in empty space. But I don't have the ability to do all the experiments like they would do, were they to investigate this. So I invite any of you out there who look at this video to get this kind of information to a physicist, because I've been unsuccessful in doing that. I don't know how you contact them. I mean, I have gone to their website and posted some of my videos, but I get no response. So, aren't these beautiful? Look at that one. That is just so beautiful. And sometimes I play with it by turning it different ways. And see, this one came from the light and it's already full of color. And it gets out a little further and it turns into sort of a fan. All the colors of the rainbow are there in so many guises, and it's like wires of light. I don't know much about the string theory, but I do have the perception that it is that we're all connected by little tiny filaments or strings of light, I guess. Which I would say, okay, there might be something to that because of these pictures. All of this is in the empty space between me and any object in the room. And it looks like filaments of light. And who knows, maybe the colors denote certain kinds of energy. Sometimes a darkness will just envelop an orb and it just takes it over. But then the very next orb you look at might be one like this that has all this color. It's not like the light and the color and the light and the dark were fighting in any kind of way. They just mutually create together. Now see this one, I don't know if you can see this half, but there is a dark side to this. And there's all these little circles with concentric circles around them, and sometimes it looks like a little face in there because you can see like two eyes and a mouth. I'm always making out what looks like faces in my orb pictures. One of my sisters did tell me when I showed her the orb pictures, she wasn't real excited about it, but a little fearful for me that I might get obsessed. I said, Linda, this is the light, and light is what God is. So maybe I'm looking at God, and I'm not going to worry about getting obsessed by it. I think I don't research it enough, really. I would love to have others who would look into this with me and share their pictures and their thoughts about what they're getting pictures of. I've gotten this shape before. It looks like a backward D. I've gotten this little thing. When you look at enough pictures of orbs, you start seeing some similarities. And see, an orb might have a little line just all through it like a crack. I like the orbs that are in motion like this, where they just swirl. It's like they're dancing. And they just, light is so playful, so colorful. And you can see the orb-like nature of this, where it's rolling up, but then it's like a long tube folding out toward the bottom here. And then light enters into another orb of light that is stretching, and you can see this one going right into it. And then here's one over here. According to the glass that I'm taking the picture with, because I use candlestick holders that are made of glass, and the glass is funny in them. It's not round just like a round marble. It makes the light travel through it in different ways. And when you're using the shine off of something that is more convoluted than just a round sphere, then the light travels in a more convoluted way, and you can get a picture of just beautiful ways that it's traveling through that means of using that glass as its, I don't know what you would, as its generator of how it's going to move. Always with marbles that are round, I get round orbs. But when I use other shapes of glass, I get those that look like this and this. And it is a very exciting hobby to have. And very easy and inexpensive to do. Anyone could do it, I think. I say I think because not enough people have tried to get pictures like this to inform me whether or not they're able to get them. I do know one person took a picture of an orb that looked similar to mine and sent it to me, just one picture. So I know some people can do it. I don't know if anyone could, though. I would like to know that, though. I wish my sisters had said, show us how you do this, we want to do it too, and I would be able to see whether they were able to do it, because they don't want to believe this. And I'm thinking something about our attitude might enter into whether we get the picture or not. I do know that when I'm filming orbs as a movie, and I have music in the background,